All right. Wow. When you think you wrapped everything up, no, because there's a million ways to say the same thing. There's a million ways to say things from the perspectives of different listenings. What do you mean listenings? That sounds so landmark, Jillian, because that's a little bit of a landmark language, landmark education language from my 20s. Well, I work from religious side of it, like talking to the religious people through allegory. I also take on the politics of what's going on. And then also there's the science. And I've been studying a lot of the sciences around the depopulation agenda and why the system is doing what it's doing. And there's a million ways to approach an explanation and explain it without completely having information go over people's heads. Because I know speaking jargon is not, people don't get jargon. And I understand that, because why should you have to look up every single word someone says if you can just speak in plain English and speak to their situation, speak to experiences, or speak to whatever. So I figured out a way to speak to the general population so they get it from their point of view in their world. And what is that? Well, I knew that I knew that children, offspring were the deadly killers in our society, and also the adolescent adults who are killers and also very deadly in our society. And so, even though, yes, you could prove that children can be extremely deadly, your offspring, and they may not be children, they could be adults, but even children, and you see that in the population, at the schools and all that. But then they're also at the micro level. There are juvenile cells, like I've said before, but there's a scientific name, because what's a juvenile cell? When you look up juvenile cell, all you see is juvenile cancer, juvenile lymphoma, juvenile leukemia. You don't really get the literal term of juvenile. And then I figured out there is a scientific name that I had studied when I was studying the mechanisms of vaccines, and studying the mechanism of herbs and extracts and their countering effects of each other based upon the intention. And I saw, oh shit, that's right. Because my lymphatic system is always on overdrive in this environment. And I have to keep eating and resting to make sure that my lymphatic system stays intact through this climate change, because that's the thing that's working for me to keep me alive. To not only give me the protection, but also release the excessive protection. Because remember, protection is great, but when it's too much, it becomes deadly. Okay, just like anything out there, everything is about balance and moderation, but you can't be the one to determine how much protection and how little or how much. It's your immune system that, when it's allowed to express itself, when it's allowed to eat and repair, is what will determine how much is too much and how little is too little. And you can't try to control your body the way people have done in the medical holistic system. So B lymphocytes, which I've Googled, I've talked about them, but the way they characterize them in the medical industry is correct based upon the actual technical intention. However, it's about excess. And then when you realize that now what people are seeing, now I can sympathize with those in the anti-VACCINE industry, and coupled with those that are then taking on the herbs in lieu of the VACCINE, because you have to examine both, then I can sympathize with their arguments. However, if they're going to argue that the VACCINESs are deadly, and especially now, I mean, they were deadly before, but the rate of death and the rate of life was perfectly fine 50 years ago. Now it's not so much. But they're going to have to examine that every single thing they do in reaction to symptoms will develop deadly growth turbo cancers, because the B lymphocytes are what is being boosted. And so they're going to have to examine their whole culture around pain and suffering and what they're using to stop the pain and suffering. And they go to each extremes. What do you mean they? Well, I just figured out when I Google what cannabis does, yeah, it's a countering effect to the lymphocytes, to then where it takes away your protection, like AIDS. Right? AIDS is autoimmunodeficiency disorder or something. Autoimmune, something like that. And it's a person's immune system pretty much deteriorating. They have absolutely no protection. And so they succumb to the system when they actually have the AIDS virus that is now metastasizing, versus just HIV, which means you have the virus, but it's not influential like AIDS is. So that's what they call it, VAIDS, VACCINE, and then something immune deficiency. So anyway, so I can understand, I can sympathize with the arguments of the anti-V world, but then you also have to look at the holistic Holocaust, which I have been, and isolating what the issue is. And that's keeping consistent with already the Georgia Guidestones, guiding reproduction carefully. That includes all the herbal industry. That includes the VACCINE industry. That includes the cancer industry, guiding reproduction carefully. That includes all the pro-choice and the pro-life people. See, if you're going to be pro-life, it should not be at the expense of parents. It should not be at the expense of your society if you're pro-life. Oh, yeah. Okay? The whole J world is pro-life and not at the expense of the parents, society, or anyone else. And that is extremely valuable to understand the difference between the political pro-life, where people are sacrificing their parents, and even the mother, and then the J world pro-life. We do believe in life, but not at the expense of somebody else. And that is a very significant difference. And so when the holistic system and the allopathic system wants to boost your immunity through the VACCINESs or the herbs, and there are a list of herbs that boost your immune system, and then when there's too much, right, then they go and take cannabis to go and try to control and regulate those lymphocytes. And then people are, when they feel something, they're smoking cannabis. Well, what happens when you smoke so much cannabis? Your body falls apart because it's being forced to produce hormones, and it's not conditioned to release. It's just under the influence. So you don't feel pain, you don't feel suffering. You're developing even more offspring. Maybe not so much lymphocytes, but some other offspring, because there's still antibodies that are producing. And when you have an antibody in the body that is overabundant, that's sucking the life out of people. Look at the Phoenix Tears guy, he's gone. Look at the Charlotte's Web people that Audrey mentioned, she's gone. Those young ladies are gone because you can't survive on CBD and cannabis. But people don't understand how to manage the life that they have. They have 1 billion kids. There have been pain and suffering. You got to be as humane as possible to people. And at this point, people are so far gone, they can't take in any new information. You're not allowed to make them suffer if they don't want to. So you give them ways out. But there's another side to the world, which is the Jilly Juice world, that you don't have to succumb to all of that death and destruction. That even though many people are too far gone, you still can't let them shut you up. But you be the one to survive and evolve and change and support that change with life and release and food, with no intolerances to any of the food supply. Because you're seeing now with all the different activists out there who are trying to say that food has been poisoned. That's a psychological operation. So when people are overridden by B lymphocytes, and then they're trying to control it with cannabis, and they're deteriorating aggressively, aging out, getting skinnier and skinnier, or overabundant, well, train has left the station. It's gone. It's gone. So, yeah, I mean, and you just gotta let that world be over there. But it doesn't mean that you that you take part in that world. You don't have to. Some people have so many food allergies, they can't possibly sit with the pain and suffering. They can't. Okay? And so, you know, some people can figure out a way to condition themselves to drink milk a little at a time. Even if they're allergic, they'll find a way. They'll have to figure out how to cough and sneeze and blow their nose to release those, the offspring from that, the mucus, filled with whatever. Okay, it's not that it's poison, because the body has to produce life to push out the enemy inside, and you have to condition for it to release. That's why when you condition your alimentary canal, which is your upper immune system and your lower immune system, when you condition your alimentary canal to open up, not only will it take in new information, but it can also release the old information. And you have to be able to handle that energy conversion. If you can't handle it, then you'll be closed up and supernova, self-implode, and then have an issue with air, food, and water. And then you'll be all about love, because you'll realize that your time is nearing an end and you want to say goodbye to people in different ways. And so the people that mean the most to you, you will make sure they know that you love them and that you care about them. And I get it. It's like when people give away their most valuable belongings before they off themselves. They start giving away all their trinkets and giving away this. And people start coming from love all over Facebook, and they're all about love, love, love. And they're so thankful for their friends and family. They're nearing an end. And they want to get it out as soon as possible. And everybody knows that they love them before their friends and family die or before they die, because they know tomorrow is not promised in their world. I mean, it's not promised in my world, but I will not die from natural causes. It's questionable about, well, you know, nuclear war, but I can't control that. But when someone knows that they are dying from natural causes, they will come from so much fucking love. And it will be insane to watch. And then you'll recognize when people are dealing with the offspring in their body taking over, and they know their time is nearing an end. And yes, they are all about love. So that's why I stay away from the medical holistic industry, because they're all about love, loving you to death. And I know it seems rather cold that I'm pointing it out, but that's the two sides of the board. That's the black and white checkerboard. There is the white side, which is like the representation of life. Too much life obviously can destroy you, but it's life at the expense of somebody else. And then there's the dark side, which is the death, but the death of the old world that is not going to, so that way it doesn't overtake and destroy, because it's not evolutionary. And so you have to balance out the black and white checkerboard. The Freemasons are fucking smart. There are geniuses in our society that are fucking smart. You just have to pick apart the information, understand where they're coming from, and then you got to be the one to handle the evolution and the change, and still survive it, and recognize indicators of what's going on. And so the last couple of days, man, I mean, I did feel stuff before my husband went off to his vacation, because he went off at the end of March, beginning of April, and that was, of course, around the eclipse time. But I was feeling stuff even before that, and then I went to Walmart and freaking flipped out. Not really, but And then he goes on his vacation, then it comes the eclipse, and everyone's all freaking out and stuff. And then now that was a whole mass ritual, and then we have all the tornadoes that are just ravaging the middle of America. And so then the last few days, I've been feeling the arm pain. And it's been pretty freaking intense. It's been so intense, and I'm looking back, trying to Google arm pain on my old page, or on my page from before, whether in the Dilly Juice on the current page, or even right now on my current page, personal page. And I find September 30th, 2023, that I had major arm pain even back then. Why is that? Because the climate's changed. They told you climate change. When we go into climate change, it's going to be a mass ritual of people facing their immortality, relative to how you want to look at it, and mortality, and making some pretty life-changing decisions. And so now you're getting a choice. I was trained to survive a lot of pain and suffering. Why? Because that was what I grew up with, raised by scientists. Raised by scientists, raised in ways that people even here in Ohio don't even fucking understand. And I don't blame them for not understanding, because how could you? You could not possibly know what I have been through in my childhood as well as my young adulthood. And it's not that it was bad, it was just a different way of being raised. And it gave me the capacity to deal with change and pain and suffering, because I've always changed. I would go from state to state, boyfriend to boyfriend, friendship to friendship, family to family, and I'd be able to handle that change and still survive it and get out when I needed to if it became dangerous. I'm glad people took pity on me and decided not to destroy me at the time, because I could have very well disappeared at one point. But the person took pity on me and they let me go. And then the system wanted to search me out when he did something to somebody else, and they wanted me to be a witness. And I'm like, fuck that. I put myself in that position. I'm not going to go and be a witness for somebody else. I'm not going to be that justice vigilante. Fuck no. I'll take my licks, own up to my shit, and she'll have to take her licks and own up to her shit, and he'll have to take his licks and own up to his shit. And that's kind of how shit goes. That's how I've been able to escape a lot of the deadly consequences to me exploring the world. And I take personal accountability. Oh, believe me, I do. That's how I've been able to survive this far, because I could take personal accountability and not bring others down with me because I want to get justice. There's no fucking justice. Closures, you close, you end the suffering yourself and then strengthen yourself. You close the door in the old world and still survive the transition between the old world and the new world. That's only what you can do. Nobody else can do that for you. There's no amount of justice in the world to make everything okay. People do what they do. You have to survive what people do, what they say, and how they say it. So, yeah. So the B lymphocytes, the little naive B lymphocytes are the little vampires that right now our society is afflicted by. And they're trying to control it through abortion, through cannabis, through operations, through oncology. And then it starts looking like World War II, the Holocaust. And why is that funny? It's not. But it's just like, yeah, history repeats. And then I showed you that video about the fourth turning. And then you're like, okay, so that actually puts it all together. The fourth turning, the B lymphocytes, the holistic system, developing, boosting your immune system with more B lymphocytes, or trying to take it away and control them through cannabis. I mean, I understand the intentions. I understand the science behind these intentions. It doesn't mean it's going to help people, really. It might take them down as humanely as possible, whatever the hell that means. At some point, nothing will work. That even morphine won't work, and people just die in the system. They're in palliative care, and then they're in hospice, and then see you later. It's done. And I know I was against that, and now I'm not saying I'm not for it, but I understand why. Doesn't mean I'm going to go and hang out with people who are on that trajectory and take part in their lifestyle and belief system. There's no fucking way. That's why being on your own is probably going to serve you better than hanging out with people who are on their way out the door treating their disease and staying in pleasure and paradise and in distraction and loving everyone to fucking death and being a guru and being a savior or being looked at as a Satan. I mean, that's the mainstream. That's why I've pretty much stay at home. I don't hang out with people. I don't want to be caught somewhere in an unpredictable situation because some juvenile or adult who's a juvenile, adolescent, went off the fucking deep end and they had access to things that would cause mass destruction. There's no fucking way I'd be out there. I don't know how anyone can think that it's safe to be out there in public, putting themselves in positions with strangers that they don't know what will trigger them to do something stupid. Okay? And so now more than ever, while the climate is shifting yet again, and I'm feeling it, and we have people who are shootings and zombies eating people's faces off and machete people, people getting stabbed out there. I mean, what will it take for people to realize that, yeah, the system is saying, okay, stay home, stay safe, so you don't be caught in a situation that you can't control. That's the system protecting the smart people. The people who are in resistance and dumb when you think about it, not very intelligent, they'll be out there resisting everything. They'll be out there in pleasure and paradise saying, oh, nothing's going to happen to me. They'll be out there partying, out there with strangers, out there getting caught in the situations, out there with friends and family. But they don't give a shit because they already know their days are numbers. Now it's just going out with a bang. Okay, that's fine. Good for you. I'm not saying that you're not smart. Yeah, I'm sure you are smart, but some people are at the end of their rope. Literally. They're at the end. So I hope you're doing what you love to do when you're at your end. Okay, I get it. You know what I like to do? I like to watch Netflix. You know what I like to do? I like to figure out how to strategize my survival with my new lifestyle that I've adopted the last 3 years. You know what I like to do? Is make sure that my husband's okay and take care of him because that was what I committed myself to. You know what I like to do? Is learn new fucking things. You know what I like to do? I like to talk. That's what I like to do. I don't have to be out there hanging out with people. No. Those days of social interaction are pretty much over. You might be risking your life being out there in social interaction. Even going to the grocery store, to Walmart, like I did a couple days ago, was like risking your life. Not only because somebody else could be going off the deep end because the energy is so crazy, but even feeling the way I felt when I was in there was like, holy shit, it's like strategizing your survival, even getting food when the frequencies are like the predator. Okay? And that's the strategy of the Hunger Games, is that can you handle even buying food or pay for delivery services and pay, give somebody a nice healthy tip. So you'd be paying a lot more for delivery services because someone's slaying your food, someone's buying the food or picking it out for you. And then you get to pay them, tip them. And so you either pay more in the delivery service because you'll be paying more. Or you go out there and you risk life and limb to go get the food and whatever supplies. And so, yeah, that's why Jeff Bezos makes billions of dollars. He should. Fuck yeah, because you have your Amazon and you have maybe your Walmart delivery if you had to. But, yeah, or what is it, eBay or something? I mean, I'm not a shopper. I don't like shopping on the internet. I really don't. But it's necessary because navigating the public foray is like going through hurdles. It's going through obstacle courses. It's being so aware, you're having your head on a swivel and that you're facing reality out there. That's what is going to save your life, is facing the fucking reality out there. But hey, if you don't feel anything and it's not happened to you and you don't know enough people to even make the connections that people are dying suddenly because of their lifestyle, then hey, go have fun until you become the example to your friends and family. And then they'll be like, oh, I knew someone that died suddenly and they were relatively healthy. So if you become the example to your friends and family, fine. Somebody's got to be. I'm not going to be the example to my friends and family of that we're in climate change and people are dying suddenly or getting caught in the crossfire. But hey, if you want to be that example to everyone around you, fine. Somebody's got to be. I guess it's better you than me. But I take my life seriously. I take what's going on very fucking seriously. I know what I can control, what I can't control. And yeah, yesterday, I took a nap yesterday, and I hear stuff, but when I'm taking a nap and I'm listening to some of these Netflix videos I've watched so many times, like Ozark, I've watched it 1,000,000 times. Okay, Bloodline, which is another Netflix series, I've watched that so many times. And I'm like just snoozing because I'm just trying to deal with the heart palpitations. That's what's going on. And so when I'm feeling heart palpitations in Walmart and then I'm feeling them at home, that means that the frequencies are somewhere in my vicinity. Which means people around me are also subjected to it as well, not just me. And people around me are dying or contracting cancer, disease, and chronic illness or dying suddenly. And so, and I'll hear stuff. I'll be like snoozing and hearing stuff like through Ozark, and that's where I saw that. But I heard about the money. What Justin Bateman was saying, that money is not a sign of wealth or something. It's a measure of a man's choices. What is he using that money for? Oh, pleasure in paradise, buying all the protection, buying their kids everything, spoiling everyone around them. because they know their days are numbered. So you might as well just go spend it all and give it all to your kids, right? Which I understand. But then you see that person is nearing the end of their line. And they're all about love, love, love. And so money is a measure of a man's fucking choices. People will convert their body into money. They will allow people to use them as a tool for whatever. And so they convert their body into money. And so you see it in the big houses, the cars, the friends, the family, all the baubles, pleasure in paradise, the Botox, the surgeries, and all the things that people think that that's wealth and status and prestige and privilege. And then I'm watching later on, like last night when I had a very hard time sleeping. Oh my God, I went to bed late last night. It was after 1. I'm watching Beverly Hills Cop. And back in the 80s, you know, when you have the juxtaposition of Axel Foley, a Detroit cop in Beverly Hills, and you see the status of Beverly Hills, which now LA is going down the drain. Beverly Hills is going down the drain. San Francisco's gone down the drain. LA going down the drain. Yeah, all that wealth and status and pleasure and paradise, it's now turning into died suddenly B lymphocytes and little killer children, whether in your body, in your immune system, or out there in the population. Out of control, robbing places, going in and taking from people's cars. In my town, there's always people saying, oh, look, somebody, like through the Ring doorbell or through Neighborhood Watch, or like, oh, look, somebody's going through my car. Or they leave their fucking keys in the car. They leave their wallets in the car. They leave their car doors open. Or who knows, whatever. And so these little children, adolescents, are going through and stealing shit. Children. So, yeah. So that's why the system is turning the heat up. Because the prison system, juvenile hall, I'm sure, is bursting at the seams. I'm sure there's so many patients over there in the pediatric ward, in ICU. Was it juvenile ICU? Was it NICU? Pediatric ICU? These kids are dying suddenly. So that way alleviates the pressure on the system to go and manage them and treat them. People are gallivanting like there's no fucking change out there. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. That's kind of where we're at. So I'm listening to, so I'm watching these old movies from the 80s, and I'm like, God, those are some pretty aggressive times, yes, but they were good times, and they're about, yeah. And that's that. If you watch that video about the fourth turning, yeah. What is it? 40 years after the high. What was that in the turning? It was like right after World War II. That was the high, right? And then you had all the plays like Death of a Salesman. I remember writing about that and doing a report on that actually myself, just on my own, a couple of years ago. When I was trying to figure out what angle I would start for my book, or what I would come from on my last book. And so I was looking at Death of a Salesman. But now I look at Death of a Salesman from a different point of view, and I'm like, oh yeah, that is an allegory about man's resistance to change. Man perpetuating a fallacy and a phoniness and a fakery because they don't want to face the changes that are going on, so they're living in the past. Just like, you know, what is it? Back to the Future? Biff? Going Back to the Future? And the same name in Death of a Salesman is Biff. But I was also watching Glenn Gary and Glenn Ross. That's the reason why I brought up Death of a Salesman. Because there's so much things I've done the last few years as far as writing stuff about books and plays and whatever. But I'm watching Glenn Gary and Glenn Ross, which was won many awards, like in the Cannes, Film Festival. And it was like the modern day Death of a Salesman, because Death of a Salesman was written in 1949. It was a play. And then Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross, which is about salesmen who are resisting the fact that they are not a good wine salesman, who doesn't face the fact that he's not a good salesman anymore. He's outgrown and outlived his position. He's not as sharp as the younger ones, like Al Pacino. So Jack Lemmon played that part of a salesman who's resisting that he needs to go and retire. He needs to change and he needs to slow the fuck down. He doesn't have it anymore. And so that is like the Glenn Ross was the modern day death of a salesman. And so, yeah, that's kind of our society right now. We have so many people out there, you know, mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers and people who are resisting the changes. They're not facing the reality of what's going on. They're in such resistance that their body's falling apart. And they're treating their disease and having 1 billion fucking children, not realizing that you keep doing that, you're going to dilute your genetic line and cause more disease that must get treated and then they'll have to humanely put you down, put your kids down, put your animals down. There are people that have lost their animals that have been in the vet system the last 3 years, watching my animal die, and they have their own pit bull that's going through the vet system, had to get operations, and yeah, they're alive for a minute, but you see in the animal's eyes, it's suffering, being corked up and butchered by the vet system. And then then the animal finally dies and succumbs because the climate's changed and it becomes so aggressive. These poor animals being treated to death don't survive climate change. So that animal that was watching, the person was watching me for that minute, sympathetic to my situation with Sugar. She got her animal treated and the animal didn't survive more than 3 years, less than 3 years. It basically was done. Just recently. And I mean, I feel bad for these people, but that's what I'm saying. You treat your animal, you treat yourself, you treat your kids, it's only a matter of time. But you can't make them suffer. Yeah, you're fucked, aren't you? If you can't handle pain and suffering, it doesn't matter what you're going to do as far as therapies and whatever. You will have to treat yourself to death. And then be in love with everybody. Well, the last couple of days, I was so aggressive. Because I feel the fucking pain. I know exactly what's going on. And it's very aggressive. And you have to rage it out. You literally have to get fucking mad because that's what's going to keep you alive. It's ones that are all about love, love, love. And they're all about not emoting, not releasing. They're closed up. They're starving. They're going to fold up and fucking die because they don't have what it takes to live. They don't have the anger to live and to survive. They don't have the assholiness. I mean, even some assholes are not going to survive because they're reacting to their symptoms all wrong and they're backed into a corner. There are some assholes that are backed into a corner and they won't change because their friends and family won't allow them to. And so even though they're an asshole, they might live longer than most people around them, but eventually even their assholeness will destroy them. And so that's the thing with the J world is, yes, be an asshole, but don't harm anyone around you. And make sure you feed your asshole behavior with all food in the food supply so you can support your lymphatic system leaving or releasing those little juvenile cells that aim to destroy you, just like your children who aim to destroy you. That's why you don't want to encourage your kids to have kids, because your kids are destroying you. And your grandkids are going to destroy the mother, your daughter and sons, as well as you when given the opportunity, because that's what the kids do. They take from the parents. They take from the grandparents. They take from the community if they're not regulated and given a job to help sustain. If they're just taking and taking and taking and causing chaos, what's the point of them even being around if they're going to take and not give back? And how you do that now with this transition? Well, the system knows that no matter what your kids do right now, if they don't have what it takes to survive, they could be the smartest fucking kid in the school system, get straight A's because the environment is giving them the energy and they have right now relative equilibrium. They're smart, of course. But do you think they're going to handle energy conversion? They're not going to get overwhelmed? Of course. That's the thing. And if mommy is dealing with pain and suffering and treating her disease with supplements and drugs and alcohol and sex and whatever else, you can only imagine how that's going to translate to the offspring. So even though your kid is doing well now, what about the fucking future? Have you even thought of that? Oh no, you're riding the high now. But that's kind of what parents are relegated to, is just dealing with now. They can't look at the future because they don't even look at the future for themselves. They're riding the high in their own world, getting social capital until died suddenly. Just like you're seeing these people in the died suddenly groups. Mother of 3, dies suddenly, 34 years old. You think she expected to die suddenly? I can only imagine what she was on as far as the supplements and the remedies and the surgeries and her background. So, yeah, that's the world we're living in right now. And it's pretty flippin' crazy. So give me I don't know if I'm going to read this all word for word. I'm just going to paraphrase stuff. Because I changed my coffee and I'm drinking Bustelo, which is a more of a finer ground espresso. Because the Starbucks espresso was like basically coffee grounds. I don't understand why they call that espresso if it's like coffee grounds. And so the Bustelo is more finely ground, so it's like a powder versus grounds. And I'm like, oh God. So I'm highly energetic, but then when I'm done doing Facebook Live and doing whatever I do, then I go and feed the energy. So even though the caffeine in my coffee is amping up my immune system and causing, yes, energy to emote, and I'm channeling that energy through intellectual capability and all of that, then I also support it with carb loading. I'm not gluten-free, I'm not meat-free, I'm not milk-free. I carb load. Last night I was so hungry. At 9 o'clock p.m., that's so weird, right? Because the last couple of weeks or months I've been sleeping, going to bed early, falling asleep at 7 p.m. But I was so hungry, I was eating leftover pot roast at 9 p.m. And the carrots and the potatoes and the caramelized onions. And then I'm eating also the freeze-dried fruit, like Fuji apples I got from Walmart. So I'm eating that, and I have juice, and I had a bunch of spaghetti yesterday. Absolutely carb loading, so you can support the DNA, so you have that energy conversion. You have the energy, so you're not falling apart, and so you can survive. And that was what I used spaghetti when I was dealing with PMDD. And my body would go through that evolution once a month. That was fucking hell. But it was the spaghetti that kept me alive. It was the carbs that kept me alive. All these people that are like gluten-free and carb-free and sugar-free are going to fall apart. The Atkins diet people are going to fall apart, age out aggressively. They may not feel pain, but yeah, that's diet suddenly. When you don't feel any pain and you're trying to control your inflammation, well, you have to release to control inflammation. I don't get the hives. Not anymore. I don't even get really the major rashes under my armpits. Oh, I feel pain, yes. I feel the aches in my shoulders. I mean, that's why people get surgeries, because the lymphocytes are tearing their shoulders apart, tearing everything apart. They get these growths in their neck and their armpits and breast cancer and heart attacks and strokes because they're closed up. They haven't conditioned for release. So you get the died suddenlies. Oh, it's pretty fucking crazy what's going on. And so, yeah, this article, what is it called? It's a website. It's called B Cells on the Stage of Inflammation in Juvenile Idiopathic Arthritis, Leading or Supporting Actors in Disease Pathogenesis. And so what did it say? It says B cells. These are your juvenile cells. B cells originate in the bone marrow. So people have bone marrow cancer. They have all this bone cancer because there's so many lymphocytes in the body. Originate in the bone marrow. B cells originate in the bone marrow as immature cells and go through several stages of maturation before being released into the periphery. These immature B cells are antigen naive and circulate through the blood and lymphatic systems to secondary lymphoid organs such as the spleen, lymph nodes, and Peyer's patches. So that's why people get their spleen removed, because they're full of lymphocytes they can't release. That's why they have then growths in their lymph nodes. That's why they get their lymph nodes removed, because there's too much clogging. I had a fatty tumor down in the genitalia area that was like on the vulva side of it, and it was from, because I knew that my body back when I was a kid was releasing through that lymphatic system, and there was a rash there that was pushed back with the steroid cream, so it pushed back those little demons within, and it caused a fatty tumor. If I had not understood what I was doing with the J world and allowed my body to release and support it with all food and everything else, I would probably have some kind of vulva cancer or some kind of cervical cancer or some kind of ovarian cancer. I would be dealing with lymphedema or lymphoma or non-Hodgkin's, or I would have cancer if I hadn't released those demons, because those B cells would stay in the areas of the lymphatic system. That's what lymphedema is. It's growths in all the different parts of your lymphatic system. And then you get the major swelling. That's what the edema is, the water retention. So you have the fluid from the lymphocytes and the edema, whatever you want to call it, from the water retention, and then you get the whole, the turbo cancers. And when people close up their immune system and they don't want to release, and then they starve themselves, yeah, these little fucking kids inside their body are causing destruction. And then it causes people to get operations to get all their organs taken out. And so 3 common herbs effective in boosting key lymphocytes, and that's why the holistic industry is Holocaust industry. Hold on, I gotta pee. And that's why you drink water too. And so that's why it's a holistic Holocaust. And people do it to themselves. Or the hire mercenaries of the system to destroy them as humanely as possible. And the mercenaries get paid very well for it. And the people worship them. Thanks for giving people the option to sacrifice themselves, mercenaries. What do you mean mercenaries? Well, because you have the people in the V industry promoting Vs to develop B cell lymphocyte protection. Yes, there is protection, but such thing as overprotection. And then it replicates so fast in this environment. Children are having children. Just look around you. How many single mothers out there that are saying that, hey, texting my son is like texting an ex-boyfriend that's not interested in me. I'm like, oh my God, that's kids raising children. That's children raising children. What do you think happens during climate change when you're taking the Vs, activating the immune system, causing B lymphocytes, and also taking herbs that develop lymphocytes, boosting people's immune systems? That's what the holistic Holocaust is doing. That's what all of your little herbalists out there and the essential oil salesmen and the gurus selling you all of their wares are telling you. They're acting just like those who push the VHCCINESs during climate change. And people do it to themselves. Thanks for giving people the option to sacrifice themselves, professionals. Because I won't volunteer for that. This is why the herbalist market is just as deadly as the vaccine market during the climate change. When you boost your immune system, you boost the aggressive growth. You're boosting your own death. That's why I stay away from all the health professionals and even lay people recommending herbs and extracts. The essential oils market, way back when, was the beginning of the ending. The system laid the groundwork for your family's destruction, and then you got paid very well for it, as you are selling everyone a side gig, a side hustle, right? That's what they call these girls that are mothers that stay at home. selling you essential oils and all the MLM bullshit. Oh, here, have a side hustle. Here's an MLM. Sell everybody more freaking lymphocytes. They are boosting your death. And then vasoconstricting your blood vessels simultaneously. And they call it healing. Yeah, rest in peace. Yes, some herbs can boost blood lymphocytes, which are the basic building blocks of the body's immune system. According to 2006 Newswise articles, Echinacea purpurea, Astragalus membranosus, and Glycyrrhiza glabra are the 3 common medicinal herbs that can boost key blood lymphocytes. Oh boy. So now you're going to see all the little people out there who don't know any fucking better, like, oh look, boosting my immune system. They're going to go look for their nearest herbalist. They don't realize they're in climate change because they're in denial. Maybe they're Republican. Maybe they're conservative. Maybe they're even left wing. And they don't think they're in climate change because they don't feel anything because they're under the influence. And they're going to take all these different herbs. And then people start getting cancer. They start doing drugs to stop the cancer and the growth. They rape their own body, mind, and spirit. And so the industry, the drug industry, found a counter effect that people abuse. And that people are addicted to pot. And so they have no protection. And they fall apart. Overall, these results show that the cannabinoids, CBD and the THC, have an inhibitory effect on the lymphocyte activation, which is associated with reduction in lymphocytes, in inflammation, whatever. So that's what justifies the pot industry. That's why the system's saying, oh, we're going to take the stigma off, not make it so stigmatized. We're going to give access to everyone to have pot because they're so full of cancer right now because of all the growth, and there's so many lymphocytes are out of control. And then here comes the pot. Here comes the marijuana. I'm telling you, this is written like an amazing allegory. This is written like, holy shit. And you have to laugh because what else are you going to freaking do? People are a mess and they're screwed. The holistic industry is just as culpable as the VACCINES industry. And they're worse because people will overdo everything. They can't handle a damn thing when it comes to life. A short list of herbs that boost deadly overabundance of lymphocytes in this climate change. And when the body tries to release them, then they start smoking pot, another side effect, and they stop the body from releasing those demons. And then you get the turbo cancers, right? You get the lymphedema. You get the swelling, and they get all the lymphocytes, and now you're developing an environment for turbo cancer, and then die suddenly, because then you get the blood clots, and then people are falling apart anyways. People become addicted and fall apart, or they die suddenly. Table 2, ashwagandha. I used to take this shit when I was in the holistic industry. Thank God I got away from this. Ashwagandha. Good morning, but I'm not talking to anyone. So please just keep no comments. Ashwagandha. Astragalus. Echinacea. Garlic. Okay? Ginger. Ginseng. Oh my God. I took that one back in the 2000s when I was at this one commercial real estate company that I was doing word processing for. And the girl that my supervisor, she was like, yeah, I take ginseng to help with all my stuff. I boost my immune system with ginseng. It's a Chinese herb, right? And then licorice and shatavari, asparagus, racemose, whatever. Yeah. All right. I'm just going to delete, ban from stream, and block anyone that wants to go hello and good morning, hello. I'm not talking to people that I don't know. If you can't listen, you have to go and do hello shit. This is not like, I'm not a storm chaser looking for people to interact with. No, this is not interactive. Just read the room. If there's no comments, just leave it alone. And so this morning when I said this, whenever the climate changes, my shoulder hurts, my arm hurt. Not as bad as it was in the beginning when my body finally activates, but now I see a correlation with climate change and chronic conditions that when you don't treat, you'll survive. When my world is applied to the symptoms of climate change, I will survive them, but it is painful. And these symptoms don't last too long, but they do happen when the climate aggressively changes. And sometimes you have to pull out the crap, and I do. And sometimes you have to go to sleep, and I do. Sometimes you have to cancel plans, And I will if I had to. I did when I was PMDD. People thought I was stupid and I was crazy and I was dumb and whatever else. When I didn't act like them and be like them, then they're like, oh, Jillian's stupid. Jillian's immature. Jillian has problems. Yeah. My problem was trying to conform to your bullshit. And now many people that in California that used to talk smack about me to their friends and family and to each other are dealing with aggressive climate change, and some of them will not survive it. Actually, they won't, because they're too far gone. But I didn't conform to them, so I'm not going to end up like them. But I didn't resist them. I just walked away from them. I walked away from most people in California because I will not conform to them. And that's why I'm here in Ohio. That's why I'm here in Ohio, because I walked away from fucking California people. And the people in my immediate circle, friends and family, who were talking smack to me because I had to fucking survive them and their culture. And sometimes when you survive a culture, you have to walk the fuck away from them. And I did. And I saved myself. So back when, so lymphedema. All right. That's why you must have a very aggressive release and retention process so you can survive the physics of climate change. Your biology must survive the physics of climate change. Lymphedema is a chronic condition that causes swelling in the body due to a buildup of lymph fluid. Lymph nodes act as a drain, so if the drain is clogged, that's why you get all these growths, right? Fluid can't drain. The buildup can occur in the arms, legs, chest, wall, abdomen, neck, and genitals. And that's where you get all the tumors and the cancers. And then you have all that skin that people have because those lymphocytes are eating away at the person's tendons, their muscles. And so women look like they're droopy. They have jowls. They look like they're going to fall apart. They lose the collagen because those little kids are eating away at their infrastructure. And so that's why women deteriorate, because they're full of little offspring that they don't release and they keep treating. So the buildup can occur in the arms, the legs, the chest wall, abdomen, neck, and genitals. Back when my dog was dying and my neck was swollen, I couldn't move. That was also lymphedema and probably meningitis too. But remember, I released the demons down there. I pulled out the demons. I also ate so much food, meat, milk, cheese, eggs. I slept. That's what it will take to survive climate change. I even had to stay home and stay safe. My armpits don't leak as much, but sometimes they do, but not as much. But yet, every part of my lymphatic system must be working to my benefit, or else it will destroy me. Those lymphocytes will destroy you. They will ruin your upper torso and your shoulders. How many men out there have gotten shoulder surgery? How many men and women out there have growths, had other issues? That's why people get frozen shoulder and shoulder surgery, further damaging themselves even more because those treatments will cause the body to fight back. I don't get hives either anymore, not lately, because my lymphatic system is working to my benefit. Nothing will get clogged when I keep everything open, not close myself up like people do. And I make sure I blow my nose and I make sure I blow it out and make sure that things remain open, not clogged up. And people resist change and release. So it doesn't matter what you do or not do when it comes to taking away symptoms as far as the different therapies and methodologies. If you can't handle pain and suffering and release and retention, it's just a matter of time. And if you have food issues, it's just a matter of time. That's why people are dying suddenly. They are self-imploding and they're aging aggressively. The buildup of that fluid is kicking people's asses. That's why these kids are not surviving. How can they when they've been trained not to release, but to quell every single different system until the body says it has enough, it has had enough, and it rebels against them? How many kids have gone and got their tonsils taken out? How many kids have gotten their spleen and their appendix taken out? How many kids have gotten so many things taken out of their body because the parents don't want to deal with it? These kids are basically ticking time bombs. Death is the ultimate rebellion your body has against you. You have abused it for too long, because you allowed somebody else to take over your body, mind, and spirit, and you're greedy for money and social capital, and then you have issues with food. It's extremely bad out there. But if you can't feel anything, God bless you, and I hope you are doing what you love to do. What do you mean? Because people will die suddenly. So you might as well just say, hey, you love everybody now. You might as well let everybody know that you're on your way out the door, because that's what they're doing right now. People are saying, I love you, everyone, to the people that mean the most to them, that have been there for them, and I understand that. I get it. Just like someone who is suicidal, giving away their most prized possessions because they know the end is near for them. And that's really fucking grim to see that in your Facebook crowd. When you... So, but with all these types of VACCINESs, the body is left with a supply of memory T lymphocytes as well as B lymphocytes that will remember how to fight that virus in the future. It typically takes a few weeks after VACCINA vaccination for the body to produce T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes. Which is why during climate change, because you have NK T cells, natural killer T cells, all right? And so, yeah, you have B lymphocytes. So both of them, both lymphocytes, B and T, are both pretty deadly. But I want to let you know that the children are the most deadly. And even the adults who are like natural killer T cells. But even kids could be like adults. But I want you to understand what the B cells are really representation of. Which is why during climate change, the VACCINESs are extremely deadly to those who are extremely closed up. The system knew you wouldn't know this or make the connection, which is why they had doctors and all the mainstreams push the therapies to such an extent, even bully you into getting them. Then something happens, they have plausible deniability. Oh, you can't prove what they knew when they knew it. It's fucking strategic. I gotta hand it to them. You're working with extreme genius professionals. Absolutely. I actually respect the hell out of the system doing what it's doing. Why? Because you can't change people. You can't make them understand how shit works. You can't stop them from having kids. You can't stop them from pleasure in paradise. You can't stop them from drinking alcohol and doing drugs. You can't stop them from being actively, intentionally ignorant. So they got to change the climate. And they know if you don't have what it takes to deal with new information, you'll destroy yourself. And that includes through the remedy system. All right? Luckily, I was raised by extreme genius professionals. Even if they didn't know the system's full intentions. I don't imagine my parents knew the full scope of what was going on. I think they understood aspects of it, but I don't think they understood the full aspect of it. Survivability is facing the pain and suffering of retention and release. To feel nothing is basically a zombie walking over a cliff. That's why I don't celebrate people saying thank you for taking away my pain, Jillian. But someone did email me last night, and I had to be very cold. What did I say? When someone says, "Hey, Jillian, how are you?" and I'm like, oh, I don't do private messages. I don't play this back and forth through private message of "Hello, how are you?" No, that's not what I'm doing. So I just said I don't do private message. I just said I don't do private message. And then the person said, "Well, I just want to thank you for your protocol and take away my pain and suffering." And I just deleted. I just blocked them on Messenger. They're still on my Facebook, but I'm not doing any more Messenger with that. Because that's not my intention, is to take away your pain and suffering. That's for the system, the professionals, to do that. And this person is a medical student. And he's trying to make a name for himself in the stem cell research. And I get that. I'm not trying to knock him specifically. That's why I didn't want to respond, because I knew what his profession was. I knew he had to be on his game, and if that meant that no pain and suffering to get in the way of what he's trying to do, fine. But I can't tell him, well, that's not really my intention anymore. I've evolved from that. But if he's in the medical industry, that's what he's going to do. So he's going to thank me for that. And I'm not going there. And I don't want to make him wrong either. So I have to keep a distance because we are on opposite ends of the spectrum. But I still respect him. He's a nice kid. But he's going into the medical system. Okay, that's your choice. But I'm not going to be like, okay, you're welcome. No, I don't want to be a hero to anyone, especially not now, because being a hero could also mean being a Satan. Okay? And so that's why I don't celebrate people saying thank you for taking away my pain, Jillian. It will only last so long, and you need to feel pain to know you're still alive. There is such a thing as being overprotected. Overprotection can kill you. Not enough protection can kill you. If you don't understand balance, you're done anyways. enjoy the ride out the door. Okay, and that includes all the different spices in the different cultures, like India, all the different spicy stuff in Mexico, like the jalapenos, the serrano peppers, the curries. Those develop offspring. Those develop B lymphocytes, T lymphocytes, and then there's situations. There's death and destruction, and sometimes even children who are all about death and destruction. And so Audrey was saying, yeah, the past few days I've had pain in my right shoulder and hip. Left elbow has been excruciating to the point of screaming out with the pain. That's a new one. It's starting to settle again today. A few weeks ago, it was the soles of my feet. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I said, yeah, people started getting spiritual around that time. They start loving everybody. And, oh, yeah, she also said, oh, yeah, I said, oh, yeah, that's the last few days has been fucking insane. Holy shit. I like to swear, okay? In my world, it's survivable, but oh my gosh, I can only imagine what goes on out there in other people's world. And then Audrey goes, oh, good, yeah, I feel like it's manageable. Years of chronic pain was part of the conditioning, so bursts of extreme pain I can handle, but you're right. The pain must be unbearable for some. And I'm like, yeah. And then people start getting spiritual around that time. They start loving everybody. Yeah, you know when people are at the end of their line is they start loving you. They love, love, love you. I'd rather see assholes because I know they'll survive than have everybody love me because I know they're not going to survive. The assholes will be the ones to survive. And if you're not an asshole, I question your survival. And so, yeah, you got to be a fucking asshole to survive. You really do. Again, when you start loving everybody, you're done. And September 30th, 2023 was frequency change. That was the last time my arms hurt so bad. And I remember it was pretty insane. Right before winter. Now we're right before summer. 80 degrees this whole week. But I've been staying up late the last few days, and I was going to sleep early for the last 2 months. Oh God, whatever. I don't care. Fucking talk to text, whatever. All right. And so I've seen this in different pages. When you tell someone something they believed for a long time is a lie, the immediate reaction is anger. Well, I got news for you. You are about to be told a whole bunch of stuff that you thought was true, but was a false. Mentally prepare for it. It's coming. You've been lied to for decades. It's not a lie if science is never settled. It's like people in the religious world that are having issues with what's going on. People don't realize programs can change. Nothing remains the same forever. If the program can change, you have the ability to change. It's just whether or not you want to. With any turning, okay, what's going on, the fourth turning or generation, the transition is the most brutal. It doesn't mean people lied to you. It just means that you had to follow a universal program until you were given permission to change. And if people knew information before you knew it and kept it from you, and then you found out later, did you have the right to know the information when they knew it? No. My parents knew certain things that they didn't tell me that I had to find out on my own. Just about the world. Yeah, you learn on your own. Not everybody can give you all the answers to the test. You learn how to take the test. You learn the hard lessons so you never ever forget, and then you can save yourself. It's the parents that give all the answers from their own biased point of view that do their kids a disservice. But sometimes it's too late. Okay, you chalk up, you take your licks, you cut your losses, and you move forward. When you discover or find different information, don't get mad that you didn't know it when they knew it. Who's they? The system. Be happy you know it now. Be thankful you were given a choice. It doesn't mean you're going to change. It just means you have the choice. And I'm going to correct something real quick because it's going to bug the fuck out of me. I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. Because I was going to bed. I was going to bed early for the last 2 months. Okay. All right. I just had to correct that. Sorry. It was an easy fix. All right. Oh yeah. For 2 months, I've been going to bed early. Now I can barely get to sleep by midnight. This was last night. This is pretty crazy. The climate has definitely changed. And so when I put in the Bing AI, generator or whatever, picture generator, I said, insomnia from the aggressive atmosphere, and that's how it interpreted. And absolutely, yes. Because everything around you, the energy is attacking you. And you have to be able to handle it and survive it. Okay? All right. So stuff can change. See, that's the thing with the Bible. 100 years from now, they'll use the Bible again and be all over again. Genesis, Exodus, the whole 5 books of Moses, and then any other religion, but maybe not. Because the system isn't going to do away with religion. They might even do away with the Bible, even the Old Testament. They might do away with all of that because that's what causes people to be at war with each other, is some of the aggressive information in the Bible, Old Testament and the New Testament. And so be thankful for the opposing forces as they reinforce what you hold so dear. So while those in the J world are realizing a lot of shit and they've taken themselves out of the mainstream and they're watching their friends and family become even closer, and then you found yourself being further, that's okay. It's tough to watch, but you got to save yourself. And some people who are stuck in the middle, they're going to have to choose survival and be apart from the most people and take breaks and whatever, or they're going to go and die with their friends and family in pleasure and paradise in the company of zombies and ghosts who know that their days are numbered, and they know it. Mother of 3 teacher dies suddenly after complaining about severe headache. Remember how much of a headache I had a couple years ago where I was using peppermint oil and water on a washcloth, or a cold washcloth with cold water, and it was intense? Oh yeah, I could have died from an aneurysm. I could have died from a stroke, but I had strong enough blood vessels. I remember having so many headaches as a kid. So many of them. I even had one where I thought I had a concussion. But no, it was the fact that I was in climate change in Silicon Valley from Vietnam, and I had a bunch of stuff in my system, and it was messing with my head, and I had a lot of headaches as a kid. And so, yeah. So a mother of 3 teacher dies suddenly after complaining about a severe headache. She didn't have what it takes to push that clot through. She probably had a stroke or an aneurysm. She didn't survive it. And then she has 3 children. Oh, here we go. Here we go. So this is on Twitter. Heartbreaking. A disturbing new peer-reviewed study has issued a warning to the public that they should make the most of their triple VAXXed loved ones while they still can. According to a bombshell study from world-renowned researcher in Japan, people who have received 3 or more COVID mRNA shots can all expect to be diagnosed with cancer, heart failure, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, or VAIDS, or face a sudden and unexpected death. The Japanese scientists issued a warning after discovering that cancer mortality is especially elevated after a person gets VACCINAT'd for COVID-19 with an mRNA injection. This risk is massively increased after getting a 3rd dose or a booster shot. So you can only imagine all the herbal remedies people are taking that are also boosting their immune system in lieu of that. But there you go. And then what else? AstraZeneca admits its COVID VACCINE can cause rare side effects in court documents for the first time. This is where the system will be like, oh shit, we're sorry, we made a mistake. Here's some money. Oh, okay. So you'll get money that you can't really spend because we're going to spend it on. You go out there, you go to pleasure in paradise, you fly in a plane and the plane drops, or you get exposed to frequencies. And then you go to like some pleasure in paradise, get exposed to frequencies, and then you die suddenly. Just like that cancer patient that won $1 billion. Oh, I'm going to get a doctor now for my cancer. Okay. You're going to give that money back to the system. See, that's what I'm saying. The system knows what they're so fucking smart. You really got to hand it to them. Holy shit. MP, what is it? Andrew Bridgenet. This is somewhere, Vigilant Fox. I'm afraid COVID, VACCINE death are going to be bigger than the Holocaust. No shit. We've got to be somewhere between 10 and 20 million people have been killed by these experimental VACCINEs worldwide, and it's still going up. British MPs are silent on this because they have got their hands in the blood up to their armpits, remarked Bridgers. The British MP stated that there is overwhelming evidence of mRNA, VACCINE harms and clear link between the shots and increased incidence of cancer. Yeah, during climate change, absolutely. And plus all the herbal remedies. The evidence was pretty considerable 18 months ago when I first spoke out. I mean, it's overwhelming now. Every week there's more evidence. Paper out last week in Japan of a clear link between people who have had the boosters and increased cancer. We know why. It's the SV40. The simian virus 40 promotes a region that Pfizer didn't disclose in their vaccine. I mean, there's a clear link with promoting cancer. Yeah, well, but see, this is the thing. They have a slush fund. There's an intention to shorten people's lives. So even if you did win this case, like I told you, if you win the case, the justice is the closure. You're going to die. You'll get money. Maybe your family gets some money. The kids are going to go to college and they die suddenly. The kids are going to go on vacation, die suddenly. The kids are going to go and spend that money on stupid shit and they'll die suddenly. And then the next of kin will get the money and then they'll do the same thing that they're doing. They're going to go spend the money on stupid shit and they die suddenly. And now the system is left with all this money that people wanted from all these slush funds from these court cases, right? The outcome was the intention. You can throw money at it. The outcome is the intention. What's the point of winning money if you don't fucking survive? Climate change accelerated the growth rate during immune system activation. The rate of growth was relatively acceptable 50 years ago. Today, it is beyond comprehension. People can't get ahead of it, so they get overwhelmed, and it causes sudden death as well as diagnosable conditions, and yes, cancer. Right now, every therapy is suspect. Your rate of release must be just as strong as your rate of retention, and not too much retention and too much release, or too much release because you will be in deficit on either end. Balance is paramount. That's why you don't overdo it in this environment. That's why you can't afford to be food intolerant or taking remedies even through the food. That's why you don't use food as medicine. You will need every bit of nutrition available. I understand substitutions, but that can only last so long. People are like, oh, well, I can't eat red meat, so I'll eat chicken. Okay. Birds are not really surviving climate change. They're small. I mean, can you survive on chicken and fish and very few vegetables and a little bit of starch, but not youth is on your side until it isn't. Even the youth are maturing or aging extremely quickly. I've seen a picture of a youth, someone that looks like they're like 12 or 13. They have a full mustache at 12 or 13. A full mustache. It's like these little adults that mature so quickly, they'll age out so quickly. It's a little weird to see. Oh, yeah. Okay, death of a salesman, that's pretty much timeless. Texting your teenage son is like texting a guy who wasn't interested in you. Jesus, I've seen that. Yeah. Children raising children. More devastation in tornadoes in Oklahoma and Tennessee, Arkansas, whatever, Kansas. And then I was listening to Ozark, some of the theme of Ozark and Radiohead, Ducks Dark. That's why I did that reel with the a dark room in the universe of stars and galaxies, and I put Warner Brothers and Walmart and stuff, and then Black Hole Sun. Okay, so you can listen to that stuff. I'm not going to go into too much detail. And yeah, I don't do private messages. If you're using the Jilly Juice for whatever and you're thanking me, you have not evolved with me. At this point, I can't even accept gratitude. Because this environment is so aggressive that you'll need all the food to feel the pain and suffering of rebuild and release, sometimes aggressively to become a stronger version of yourself. The J world was the light. But too much life light is destructive. So that's where I brought in the astrophysics of a red giant eventually turns into a black hole and sucks the life out of everything. That's what happens when people have too much light. Now look at your Facebook of influencers and their 5,000 friends. Look at every single group think religious and political, even scientific dogmas. People become inflammation, sucking the life out of everything. Red supergiants are the end stage of much larger stars and will explode in a supernova before they end up as a neutron star or even a black hole, depending on their mass. And so now it's time for darkness and balance both worlds, or else you'll pixelate and disintegrate into the system. Now you need all food and feel the pain and to strengthen yourself into this next world. And you need meat, milk, cheese, eggs, everything. And it's brutally painful if you're not conditioned for it. That's why you can't afford to be vegan. People don't thank people for giving you pain. People thank people for taking away their pain. That's not my intention anymore. I do not want the thanks. And I want to make clear, I'm not doing anything to you. But I also know to survive, you must evolve and feel pain and suffering of evolution. I'm not here to take away anyone's pain. I'm here to represent that you can survive the pain and still live and be relatively pain-free once you earn it. And that might be brutal, and you may not survive it. I can't guarantee you'll survive it. But even then, that's no guarantee, because one day you will walk into an environment that is so aggressive, you'll feel the difference. But at least you know you'll survive the difference, and you will make the necessary changes and behaviors to survive it. So even though I'm not as in pain as I was 3 years ago, having arm pain is a little bit crazy. Feeling like I'm about to freaking flip out at the Walmart was a little bit crazy, but it was survivable. I was able to control my faculties. My husband was a little tripping out because he was like, what the fuck is going on with you? But I can handle that. And I let him know, honey, the energy has changed and these Walmarts are really aggressive. And so I'm here to represent that you can survive the pain and still live and be relatively pain-free once you earn it. Okay, but again, I can't guarantee that. There's no guarantee, because one day you will walk into an environment like a Walmart that is so aggressive and you will feel the difference. But at least you know you'll survive the difference and you will make the necessary changes and behaviors to survive it. Sometimes that means staying home and staying safe and canceling your dinner plans. Sometimes it means canceling your vacation. Sometimes that means you are reconsidering having a family because you understand biology at the most microbial level. You'll understand the physics behind thermodynamics and the loss of intelligence and energy through aggressive energy conversion, such as sexual reproduction. Sometimes that means you go to sleep for the afternoon. Sometimes that means you stay home and stay safe. Sometimes that means you're not trendy following your friends and family over the cliff. I don't intend to take away anyone's pain. And I will not personally inflict physical or even mental pain onto you. You make that choice, or you sign on the dotted line to say someone will cut into you. I'm a representation that you can survive your own pain and suffering of retention and release without turning to a doctor or an antibiotic to take away your pain, making it worse later. That's what I represent. That's why I say nothing to people. All right? And so money is not peace of mind or wealth. It is a measure of a man's choices. That was from Ozark. Thank you, Justin Bateman. He's awesome. I wish they would have more seasons, because that was just a great series. Man converts himself into money out of existence. That was the old world. That is World War III. When money is your God, death is your child. And that's the B lymphocytes, the T lymphocytes. And so sometimes you need to carb load yourself to repair the DNA ladders, holding those hydrogen amino acid bonds, keeping your DNA intact and viable and relevant. Without sugar, glucose, and carbs, people fall apart. And so what would happen if a cell did not receive glucose? Ultimately, cell death occurs via BCL2 family of proteins when glucose metabolism is prevented. Which is why mostly protein intake diet is destructive, also known as Atkins diet, or people taking just soy and that's it. When people go into ketosis, they're going into major apoptosis, or a programmed cell death. And so going into ketosis was another holistic Holocaust methodology. The term food addiction is a psychological operation. When the system has closed you up, that's why people become morbidly abundant and then forced under operations and drugs to mess with the hormones, like Ozempic, which is why it is necessary to use all food to release and retain appropriately, relative to your tolerance level. And it is a major transition. It is a conditioning process to survive in climate change. The weak people in your world have been weaponized against you. Two can play that game. So somebody posted, they can't poison us if we don't eat it. And I'm like, oh God. And I said, when the masters of perception make you think everything is poisoned, you will starve voluntarily. That's the whole anti-GMO, pro-organic people. They're starving. Their kids are starving. You can't help them. You can only watch them deteriorate and go out with a bang. When your defense mechanism is to starve yourself, are you using your mind or are you being manipulated? Your reactions to psychological ops are their power, and it is predictable. The more foods you think are poison, the more powerful the system is against you. Every single food is in moderation. And sometimes you need more meat, milk, and cheese and eggs at some point in your life when you are rebuilding. And I had a lot of ice cream a couple of years ago, like a lot, to rebuild and release. And I had a lot of pork chops. I had a lot of steak. I had a lot of chicken. Okay? I had a lot of diverse milk and meat. When your body craves certain foods, you don't deny it. Don't let addictions to drugs be put in the same category as craving food. The term food addiction is a psychological operation. When you discipline yourself to starve yourself from food, that's the system weaponizing psychological operations against you. And if food is painful, it needs to be done carefully. But you cannot be allergic to any more food. You literally cannot afford it if you want to live. That's why World War III is a psychological war. It's also a weather war. It's a climate war. Those who are meant to survive won't ever tell you to starve, and they will also listen to indicators and stay home and stay safe as the system cleans up the streets. Don't be caught out and starving at the same time. As the Drug Enforcement Agency makes pot more accessible by taking the stigma off of it, they know they have more people hooked. It's just a matter of time before they get reeled in and the goose is cooked. People are done. I think it's brilliant what the system is doing because I can still access the food. I still get access to food while other people are voluntarily starving themselves. I may have to be strategic about getting my food because the frequencies are fucking insane. But I can still have access to food. I may have to suffer a bit to get my food, but that's all in a day's work. That's how I earn my keep in the system. I pay for the delivery services or I pay to feel like shit when I get home to release that demon. Either way, you have to pay the piper. But you must show the system how strong you are. If you're not strong, you'll pay for it in some way. And if you are strong, you'll pay for it, but at least you can afford it. I was raised by psychologists, psychotherapists, and a brilliant chemical engineer, my dad. I know all the games. I probably play them better than most people. In my world, I use my gifts for good, not for evil. But everything is relative. Some people think I'm mind-fucking them. No, I get no benefit mind-fucking a stranger. When you're raised by scientists, you know every single fucking game out there. I was raised by scientists. I was raised by psychological operations. That right there gives me more credibility than even some of the conspiracy people out there, just regurgitating and projecting their weaknesses. Granted, some of the advanced degree people have more of the technicalities on me, but I can dance around their bullshit for days, and I do. I can throw the arguments right back in their lap. And I also have a healthy respect for them. And so I'm glad Facebook shadow bans me. I'm glad that Wikipedia blurb about me calls me a psycho quack, because the right people will be attracted to it or be repelled by it. That works to my favor. That was for my own protection. Okay, because if I'm too influential in saving the world, the system will have to do me in. So I'd rather them say Jillian's stupid and shit, and people are like, yeah, I believe it, than have me be another fucking god out there that people are going to have to destroy because I'm too influential in saving the world. All right? If you're going to be in this type of world, don't expect to make money from it unless you go through the proper channels and go into business for yourself, which means you'll find your place in the system. The system has to play both sides of the fence. If you're going to be truthful about the world, you have to strategize your survival. That's why I'm glad I'm the age I am, but I can afford to be truthful. And right now I'm studying everything because you must know almost everything to talk your way into things and out of things. Knowledge is the power, okay? And you must be able to articulate all arguments around any subject matter. You cannot afford to be biased unless you don't want to survive. Then by all means, be a victim of the psychological operations. By the way, Tyson food is not poison. You just don't understand nutrition. Sometimes it comes in forms that are not familiar. But if you don't understand chemistry, biology, and physics, your fear will turn into starvation. Any kind of reaction to food means you have either missing nutrition and you develop an immune system activation, and that's a good thing, or you hold demons inside that must be released, which is why your immune system activated to begin with. The Food and Drug Administration has specific intentions for food and drugs. If it is a drug, there's specific intention. If it is food, it is perfectly safe. Once you start questioning the food supply, you're done, because you will make every immune system activation mean you were poisoned by the last thing you ate, and you never took into account how deeply deficient you are in nutrition and development. That's how the system got the religious people and political people and even the dogmatic scientific people. They fed you stories you decided to believe because it fit your narrative. And they could starve you using psychology, and then you would teach your children the same stories. And that's how easy it is to destroy a whole family genetic line. You get to the parents, the kids are done. So even in the J world, it's too late because you already instilled whatever you instilled in them, and that's fine. It's not your fault. You did what you had to do at the time. And just because I'm giving you information doesn't mean you'll understand it. And so if your kids, your kids get information from you doesn't mean they'll understand it. So then you have to take care of yourself and be the representation. Okay? And so IFL is saying this is what you should know about the new COVID-19 variant. A different frequency is entering our environment. I will develop another infection, and I feel the aggressive energy. If my lymphatic system was not working effectively, I would probably have been sick. But my immune system is right on point, and I take the time to make sure it works for me. And the food supply supports it, all the food supply. Okay? 6 feet under. If you can handle all the gay stuff, it's not like completely graphic, but some of it is to some people. It's a gift. 6 feet under is a major gift if you can handle the gay aspects of it. Some people can't. My husband couldn't, so he's not going to get the intellectual part of it. But yeah, I finished that up. It was 6 seasons or something. Yeah. Anatomy of the lymphatic system of the arm. So you're seeing my progression in my information and how it builds on itself. When it is that aggressive out, and you've been around a lot of diversity, your upper lymphatic system needs to push everything through, or else will turn into some kind of growth or cancer, even a blood clot, heart attack, or a stroke. Okay? So the lymphatic system of the upper limb is studied according to its various networks: superficial, deep, axillary lymph nodes, and anastomotic system. The most important superficial lymphatic system is described in the upper limb together with its application for manual lymphatic drainage. That's why my arm hurt. My immune system is working for me, and I don't disable it. And so they are much better now, but there are a lot of factors why evolution is painful. Being around diversity and climate change is definitely a major factor, especially if you don't believe in treating any disease. And I don't, okay? The fact I treat no disease the last 7 years is why I'm still alive today. If I hadn't discovered my own world, I'd probably be dead or have amputated something. I knew what kind of cancer bullets I dodged, okay? All right, mutually assured destruction. People are mad, die suddenly. Going down here. Oh yeah, somebody's machete, You don't want to be alone with strangers and because you don't know what will trigger them. Zombie cannibals are out there. Oh yes, and the Jilly Juice world is about promoting human life, but not at the expense of another human being, even the mother and the father. If you think humans should die someday, you are part of the voluntary Luciferian human sacrifice. Therefore, your resistance against the government and Big Pharma and chemtrails are misplaced energy. Examine your own beliefs first, okay? Once you realize humans never had to die, you'll realize everything that you thought you knew about the destruction of yourself and your family, it was built into your culture. I don't care how pretty of a picture you painted to justify your beliefs. You choose to end yourself and your family through your culture. Then there's nothing to resist or blame when you choose that culture for yourself and your family. You even bullied your friends into it. You chose to resist different information. Your outcome is predictable. That's why I'm saying resistance is futile. You literally have to find a way to change the way you look at everything. Okay? And I don't know how you're going to do that if you don't have the capacity to develop new neural pathways, if you're already starving with issues with air, food, and water. So it's pretty much past the point for a lot of people, and they're in these religions and stuff and spiritual dogmas that they can't get out of, and they're surrounded by pleasure and paradise, and they're surrounded by money and fame and privilege and prestige and expectations that there's no way they can get out of it. So they're going to have to justify it through spirituality. They have to bring so many people down with them because misery likes company, and people will be amenable to that because they're also suffering and they need the company, and then that's how the system got to everyone. And so the ones that can see that will walk away. Others that can't, they'll walk right into the light and they will disintegrate. That was the intention. Bye.